Hello, lovely. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah. I've had a day in front of Zoom, so I feel I get a bit goggly-eyed. Like I'm not glassy-eyed is probably the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Have you been doing like lots of courses or recording?
Lots of calls with clients. I have call weeks on and off,
Mm.
and so I have like a few days of really intense calls,
Mm-hmm.
and I've actually started to spread them out a little bit. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday have been mostly just like staring into people's eyes via Zoom.
I like that. I stagger my calls at the beginning of the week as well. So I've got like Thursday and Friday to because otherwise God knows what kind of Joe would show up on a Friday. Well, I know what you do. Yeah, do whatever. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Might be a limiting belief, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, maybe it's got a point, yeah. Not great. So for those of you those folks who don't know you, would you mind just introducing yourself and telling people who you are?
So I'm Ray Dodd, and I'm a money and business coach. So I do e-courses and work with one-to-one clients. I do group courses. I've got a free Facebook group. Yeah, so I work with women, helping them take up space, grow their impact. I've changed it recently. And get and I normally say get paid, but I'm going to start saying allow the money in. So those are the three kind of areas that I work with people on.
And I can't remember when I first came across you and your work, but I can remember vividly the feeling that I had when I read the copy on your website, because you were, I think, the first person, I'm sure there are lots of other people, but you were the first person I'd come across talking about money in a way that wasn't just kind of just allow the money to come in and who had an awareness of white lady privilege and all of that stuff, and wasn't just like, it's just all your thoughts and yet still talks about the energy of money and of feminine conditioning around money and all of that stuff. And I was just like, I think I'm a little bit in love with this woman. And then I think like gobbled up your next 3 courses that you released. Yeah.
I kind of feel a bit like as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, it would be easier though if I just was just manifest it, just sit there and it'll come. Because I do think we've talked about this a lot, about the nuanced side of things and all the grey areas of it. And it's a lot. It is like, I avoided being a money coach for so long, because I was just like, I don't want to be one of those assholes. I have to say that at 3:00. It's not live.
It's not live now, so yeah, you can say whatever.
One of those boop. Yeah, and so because you see it, and like you say, I'm sure there are many people doing it. I haven't found them. I hope to, like, all that is good and proper, that there are more than I've been able to find. I've found one other person so far. I found lots of coaches who think that way, but they're not specializing in money.
Yeah.
But I haven't found many that talk about the energy side, the practical side, and then the society, what I tend to deem very eloquently as the societal nonsense side as well. That seems quite rare to me, and I think that's why it took me so long to own it and talk about it, because I was like, it's complicated. It would be far easier if I just was like, it's simple, guys. There you go.
Yeah, you just think about the check coming to you and it will arrive on the doorstep.
Yeah. I once listened to this podcast, and it is someone who was very law of attraction, and she was interviewing someone who was much more practical. And she said, but I don't work and I earn all this money. And this woman went, I'm on your podcast.
Of course you're working.
That's working. She was quite like blunt with her. She was a bit like, don't peddle that. Just because you enjoy it and it doesn't feel like work doesn't mean it's not work. Like, you're still doing. And it was I was really like,
it's all kicking off.
Yeah, but I was like, too right. Like, you're on, like, that you are working. I doesn't feel like work when I'm doing this or I'm doing a video, but I'm what? Like, of course it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Anyway, oh God, I could rant about all of that for.
Oh no, I love all of that, and I am giving myself like 30 minutes for these interviews, because there are I could talk about this kind of stuff all day. So I'm going to start with, and we will double back to it, I promise. I'm going to start with a question that I'm asking most people who I get on this show, if I remember. That's the caveat. If I remember to ask them, I intend to ask them. So, how are you doing, and how's business?
I'm doing all right. I think I'm riding the similar kind of roller coaster of emotions that lots of us are.
Mm-hmm.
I started off in kind of like I started off with like, this will be fine. It's like bird flu, right? Like these things never fully seem to take hold. And then, oh God, oh no, this is really serious. Then it was very much like, what can I do for people? And how do I show up? And what does this mean? And there was a lot of like grappling. And actually, I found that period really helpful. Like I really honed in on my message within that. Like that was really, because everyone was talking about money and everyone's beliefs about money. So I've got like scribbles in my notebook of just like things people were saying. And so I found that bit like quite lovely. And then then it kind of normalized a bit. But then in the last few weeks, it feels a bit like, in fact, no, the last week, it feels a bit like it's going on a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like suddenly it feels a bit like, and I'm a mixture of introvert and extrovert, but I get a lot of my extrovert needs from my work met.
Yeah.
So in my private life, I'm quite introverted. So I'll happily stay at home. But even I'm starting to be a bit like, I miss people now. Like I want to go and sit in my brother's house, and I want to go and see my friends. And so, yeah, that's how that kind of describes my whole journey. Good luck with keeping it to half an hour with me. And then business-wise, business is good. I made by the 3rd of April, and I keep trying to describe this. No, by the 2nd of April, I'd made 50% more than I made the month before.
Now you see,
and March was a good month. March was not a bad month. It was a good month.
That's why I look, because people really need to hear that, because I'm talking to so many people who are kind of going, yeah, well, I mean, we can't promote anything now. No one's going to hire a coach, are they? No one's going to do this. It's like, of course they are. We're needed more than ever.
Yeah.
And the world hasn't stopped. We're just staying home. But if we go to that place of no one's ever going to hire you, then, you then stop doing all the things that are going to disprove your own point. I'm not sure if I can explain that properly, but I know what I mean.
I mean, I wrote something in my free Facebook group about exactly that. Not exactly that, but it's the same principle. It's what's been so interesting to me is so much of what I'm talking about within this kind of global crisis where it feels like everything's changed. So much of what I'm talking about is exactly the same stuff I've always talked about. It's just that it's in a sharper focus now. So something I always say is the best way not to sell anything is not to talk about it.
Yeah.
So people always go, well, I'm worried that if I sell my thing, no one will buy it. And so they don't talk about it. And then they go, but no one bought it. It's like, you never told anyone about it.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like that self kind of fulfilling prophecy of a fear where you make the fear true through your behavior. And I feel like we're in this extreme version of that where people are like, no one's going to buy, so I'm not going to sell. But you don't know that's true until you act. And really it comes down to that fear of getting it wrong, of some people not buying, of being seen to be. And we did a live with Jo, did a live with me, so we talked about this a few weeks ago now. But it's that I think it's partly being seen as cold-hearted, not caring, not thoughtful, acting without feeling, all of those things. But then we make it a truth about our business.
Yeah,
it just isn't.
It's so interesting, this period of time, because I think it's almost like giving us an accelerated advanced course in mindset stuff around kind of selling and visibility, and we were kind of toddling along with it, and it's like, oh, let's just turn the heat up on all of this, because suddenly the feeling of we're getting all of these extra messages about, well, we're going to head into a recession, so nobody's going to have any money, and so the fear's ramping up. And then there is that almost, I think, a thing of, for a lot of, because I work with women, I know you work with women as well, that almost is a throwback to some of those old scripts and old conditioning that we've got around, well, really is now the time to be doing that business thing? Shouldn't we be just looking after everybody and making sure everyone's okay for now? And it's always that, no, the men go out and they earn the money, and when the chips are down, it's your job to take care of everybody. And that's really being amplified. I'm noticing it in myself even.
You know what, it's funny for me within that, and I've noticed it in my clients, but because I'm the breadwinner in our family, I earn the money, and my husband looks after the kids. So that's just not been an option here. Like it's, and I keep getting emails from people being like, I know you're really busy with your kids now. And I'm like, I'm not. Because people are presuming that must be taking place. I mean, it would be terrible. My husband doesn't work, so it'd be really rude of him if I was the one looking after the kids now. Like, and I'm just going to go and have a sit down. I can guarantee he's working far harder than me. Like, poor thing, I can hear them like, Daddy, I want some milk. Daddy, I want this snack. Like, the snacking in lockdown has gone out of control for the kids. But it's really interesting. I think there's kind of the amount of women who are struggling to have that conversation with their partner. That's really, and noticing where they are, like you say, defaulting into shrinking back and allowing their partner to do the thing. And I actually think this is interesting as well. Like, it might be a male partner, in all likelihood it will be, but it isn't always.
No.
Sometimes we adopt that role, regardless of the gender of our partner. And it's really, really fascinating to watch women kind of once again putting their ambitions on the sideline. Because people need looking after.
I know. It's like so much of our conditioning, so much of those subtle messages that we get right from being little girls is, that's the best thing you could ever do, is to take care of other people. And don't get me wrong, it's lovely to take care of other people. But it's not that I'm just noticing how limited not even our option, that the assumption about how limited our capacity is. It's like, well, how about if I could take care of people and I can still earn great money? How about if I could still be caring and lovely and nice and, earn enough money to take us on holiday one day when we're allowed that, or pay the mortgage and all of that.
And I think the Prime Minister in New Zealand is such a good example of that.
Yes.
Of, like, and I know she's being held up, and there's a meme going around about women, countries where women have are in charge of the country that they've responded. Now, I haven't looked into that, and I feel like it's one of those things where I'm going to share it and people will go, actually, and I'm like, oh, okay. But still, it does, like, certainly New Zealand, Germany, like, those countries are dealing with it really well. And for me, that's an example of what happens when a woman follows her ambition, when she acknowledges her ambition and makes space for it. And the New Zealand, I can't remember her name. Do you know her
Jacinda
name?
Ardern?
Yes. She had her baby, didn't she? And wasn't she, am I right? And she was breastfeeding at something.
Yeah. So she had her baby, I think, really soon after becoming Prime Minister. Yeah,
she did. And what I love about that is she brought her child to her ambition rather than working it round. And she was no less a connected mum in that moment. Like, she's literally sustaining that child from her body whilst pursuing what she wants to do. And I think that can be a danger there, in terms of saying, right, women, you need to lead the country and breastfeed and do this. And sometimes we're trying to come up to the same level as men, but we end up not dropping anything else and doing everything men do, which I think is toxic. But I just love how she's not bending around what she's supposed to be. She's bringing those things in. And she obviously has more childcare than someone who's a stay-at-home mum. Of course she does. But it's just interesting to watch that, and interesting to watch the impact on the world when we don't sacrifice our ambition for everybody else. And by ambition, I mean the thing that drives you, the thing that you can't stop thinking about, and the place you make an impact.
Yeah, it is so. It's. I don't know about you, but I'm really torn on the good days of feeling like for picking the silver linings out of it, as if that's somehow diminishing to the pain that's going on, because I don't mean that at all. And I'm finding it fascinating, all of these additional new conversations that we're having about things like that, about, what does leadership look like then? Let's look at 2 examples of, and I do think it can be, I've seen a few things around that fall back to women are just more caring and empathic than the men. Look all these examples, and no, not necessarily, but let's not go to that one. But I do find it, I just think we're in such interesting times, and on the days where I can hold on to we could get some really good stuff out of this, or is there going to be some great silver linings from this? I find those days much easier to cope with than the ones where I'm
and I think that's just the reality of like life. We're really quick to try and say this is, and I think Instagram makes this worse, or social media, but I feel like particularly Instagram, where you can't on Facebook you can do a live, you can discuss something in more depth. On Instagram generally it's these like nuggets of moments, and it can be very much like, I've noticed so much caveating from people, so much. I just want to acknowledge my privilege here. I just want to say that don't think I'm homeschooling well. Don't think I'm doing this well. Like constantly so much apologizing for their existence. And, really good things come from really bad situations all day, every day. And really bad things come from good situations as well. Like life is the nuanced thing. Life is just not that black and white. And, my mum died when I was 20, and I think I remember being in the hospital just after she died, and I often tell this story, and getting one of the worst giggling fits I've ever had in my life, because partly it was trauma and stuff, and it was, it was a release of stuff, but my dad just said something funny about Serge and a sausage, and it was so funny. And I remember at the time thinking, I don't think I'm supposed to be experiencing this right now. Like, how can these 2 things happen so close together? But it was this real moment of like, and I was only 20, of realizing like how complicated. I remember my brain going, wow, things are really complicated, and something really hilarious can happen straight after the most traumatic thing in your life.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, that was a real moment of like, these things can coexist. I don't love my mum any less because I laughed. Do you know, like, even though I felt guilty for a bit, like a flash, to be fair. But I know for some people that would have been a real like, oh, I'm going to take that to therapy because I feel really terrible about that.
Yeah.
But like, and for me coming into this, it's like, I don't think finding good in things diminishes the bad stuff. I think humans like to make meaning out of everything. And I think that's one of our strengths, actually. And I think if we were to deny that, we would be losing out on so much gold that's happening at the moment.
You're so right. Yeah. Prime Minister, please. The one we've got at the moment, he's not up to much. He's a bit busy now. He's just had a baby. He could do paternity leave. You could step into the breach. Yeah.
No, thanks. No way. No. Imagine that. Ray Dodd to lead a Tory government. Oh my God.
Oh God. Yeah. No. You'd have to get rid of it. All right. So I'm gonna kind of segue a little bit. How did you get into this line of work? I'm always fascinated about how people get into these
Mine is quite a weird one. So I always did jobs that my growing up story was I was super lazy, didn't really have, and I was like, I'm not in any way ambitious, I just don't really care. Turns out I just hadn't found what I actually liked doing. And so my plan was to be a stay-at-home mum. And the line I always use about that is that Pinterest lied to me about motherhood. And once I had my kids, I was
lies to us all.
There is less crafting involved with this baby stuff. Like, then you realise that all those pins you'd like saved are for like 7-8-year-olds to do. I was like, oh, they can't do any of this. So yeah, my ideas of like being this like earthy mum and just kind of didn't work out, and I got increasingly frustrated and unhappy with being at home with my lovely little boy, with Stan. And so what I did was I'd had not a terrible birth, but not the best birth. And then breastfeeding was really, really difficult. And I went to see my favorite job title in the world, a lactation consultant. And she said, she just said, like I said about my struggle, she said, well, would you think about volunteering to help women with breastfeeding? And I was like, okay, that will help me use my brain. And so I trained to do that. And suddenly, I think that was one of the real moments for me of opening my eyes up to feminism, even though I would always class myself as a feminist. I didn't know a lot about it. And suddenly I realized how much we've been lied to about our bodies, and how much like things have been held back from women, and we've been told things, and the way that, you know, marketing really tries to diminish women. So all of that got opened up to me. And I then became a hypnobirthing teacher and a breastfeeding counsellor, which is so a peer supporter is 6 weeks training. A breastfeeding counsellor is a year's training. So there's a lot more. So I did that, and that opened my mind up to, I learned about, I'm not a counsellor, but I've done counselling training, is what I always say. So I learned a lot about reflective listening and sort of stuff like that, and how to ask questions. And then I became a hypnobirthing teacher and learned a lot about the subconscious mind. And my hypnobirthing company started to really take off. And I had no childcare at the time. So I had these bits of training, but at the time I had 2 young kids at home with me, but I was making it work in the margins. And I couldn't get this idea of being a coach out of my head. But like I said earlier, I was a bit like, coaches are, I don't want to be a coach. Like, they're slimy and they're this and they're that and and so, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I like decided to go for it after a number of different reasons. The main one being, it turned out we had no money. So we had a bit of a marriage blip in 2016, which is also the year that Donald Trump became president, and David Bowie died, and all sorts of awful stuff happened. And
remember when that felt like that was going to be the worst year
ever?
We were like, nothing can ever get as bad as this.
2019, that's been bad. 2020 will be great.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The world's like, oh my
you think? Yeah.
So we had this money thing happen where my husband had started a business and it wasn't earning money, and all our savings were gone. And we had £7.50 basically. And I was like, and I didn't know. And mostly, and I have permission to tell this story, mostly that was on him, but also I had not been paying attention. I hadn't looked at our accounts for about 3 years because I wasn't bringing in money anymore. So I'd given all my power over to him. And so I couldn't really listen to my own nonsense anymore. I had to leap with this thing because my family needed feeding. And so I took this idea and this kind of like cobbled together almost like patchwork of different experience. And I started working with mums in business. That was the first iteration of it. And then gradually, I very quickly had like a 10 grand month really fast, and was like, what's this? And realized that I was really good at selling, and I was good at making money, and that I was like figuring out all this stuff that I wanted to talk to people about. And so eventually, after a lot of resistance, I became a money coach. So that's kind of, it's quite a long story, but yeah, that's the short version, believe it or not.
But I love that because it's you can see how the different things kind of stack together to get to this point of, oh, I have enough now. I found my thing and I can jump into it now.
And what I love about it as well is that I would, if you'd said to me, you're going to be a money coach right at the beginning, I'd have been like, no way am I ever going to do that. But I started, and I've pivoted twice, and I don't think there's another pivot coming for a long time, if at all. Like, you know, who knows if I do this forever. But certainly I feel like as a coach, I found my topic, and there's no kind of like, oh, is this right? It's like, I know. And it's really, but if I hadn't started out in that bit, it's not that the motherhood stuff was wrong. It was right for then. And then it layered and layered. And I see so many people not wanting to start because they don't know where they're going to end.
Yeah.
And actually, it's so much goodness, if not all the goodness, happens in the doing, happens in the starting.
Yeah.
And that's been so borne out in my business and my life.
So what do you think, if you could so your clients at the moment, what are you advising them at the moment? Because I know there's a lot of people who are, you know, maybe not in the, well, it's all gone to shit, hasn't it? That's it, may as well pack up and close, but a bit like, I don't know what to do now. This all seems different. What do I do? Have you got any predictions or any advice for people about, sorry, my house has suddenly got ridiculously noisy.
You know what, it's funny because and this is, again, like I said earlier, it's often the stuff I've been saying for ages. And I know you said this, actually, you said this in an Instagram post not so long ago. It all works. So I've heard people saying masterminds aren't selling at the moment. And yet I've got a client who's selling her mastermind. I've heard people say, you know, don't be doing your main offer, do something that's more short term. And yet I know there are people doing their long-term offer and it's selling. So for me, it's about feeling your feelings. I always talk about bringing your feelings to work. So like, bring what you're feeling with you rather than trying to like suppress it down and not feel stuff so that you can get on with what you're meant to be doing. Like, bring it in. If you need to step back, step back. If you are feeling called to like show up in a certain way, do that. Because really selling, making money, running your business is so much about you feeling good. Like, that is almost the primary thing. Does it feel good to you? Does it feel right to you in that moment? And that's what will sell. And I don't think that's changed. Sometimes though, because of what's going on, you're going to need to unpick some old stuff, because like you said, lots of old stuff is coming up for people, and maybe some newer stuff that's been brought up. So it might be that it does feel good to me, but I think it's morally wrong, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So in order to allow yourself to do the thing that feels good to you, you might have to unpick some other stuff. But yeah, I'm reading lots of predictions. I don't know. I'd like to think that we're going to end up in a utopia afterwards. I know if you're listening on the podcast, I'm not pulling a face that looks like I don't have a lot of faith in. This is where I want to be a really positive coach. I don't have a lot of faith in the systems to uphold that. I think the patriarchy and white supremacy and all of those different scarcity-based societal structures are not going to go down in a kind of like, oh, there's a pandemic, forget it, you're all welcome.
Yeah.
Sure. I'd love that to be true. Prove me wrong, that would be great. I'd be delighted. But capitalism is a pretty strong belief for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you only have to look at some of the states in the US. It's like, whoa. Yeah.
Opening up, going back to business is more important than people's lives.
Yeah, the cure can't be worse than the problem. The problem, people dying. I think most of the cure would be.
Exactly. So yeah, in terms of like, I think it will bring a shift to working online. I do think that will happen. I think it's really put a fire up a lot of people's bums to like do stuff that they've been saying they should do. I've noticed it really focusing people's message. So that's great. I actually am always encouraged, you know what we're talking about with this caring stuff coming up, where that's happening and people are noticing it and being able to unpick that's brilliant. That would have taken so many people years to realize, and it's bringing it into focus. So there's a number of really amazing shifts. The utopia though at the end of it,
I have my odd moments. I used to read a lot of apocalyptic future fiction. I'm a big kind of, sci-fi and futuristic fiction fan. I've had to stop all of that right now.
My husband was reading The Handmaid's Tale and he was like, I can't keep reading this.
Oh no. No. Although the Testaments, that's quite upbeat. Yeah.
He was reading that to get to the Testaments next.
Oh, yeah.
He hadn't read The Handmaid's Tale for years. So he was like, I can't read it. I can't do it.
No. Oh my goodness. We're nearly at the end. This is the stupid rule I gave to myself.
Honestly, I'm not known for my brevity in any way. I'm always like, I'll keep this to 10 minutes, 40 minutes later.
No, I'm the same. And that's good, because these are such good, meaty kind of subjects. What's giving you joy right now?
So this is so nerdy, but this is so I should say my children, but also no, they always do, and the fact that they're constantly naked. Is anyone else's kids just naked all the time?
Oh, how old are they? Because my
4 and 7.
Oh, right. So I have he's just turned 20 actually. My daughter who's 10. That would be very inappropriate. But yeah, he went through a phase which lasted quite a few years actually, where you just couldn't keep clothes on him. It was just
my kids are known for it. Like people like they're naked again. Yeah, sorry, not the postman. Like they still not got clothes on. No. But yeah, but what's really bringing me joy is I've just invested. So this is the thing as well, talking about people investing or not investing. I've just invested in a mastermind, like a high level mastermind, and it's one of the first exercises we're doing is you really break down your business into a framework. So I am nerding out on creating this kind of like, it's basically my intellectual property, or Seth Petherick would call it, she always describes it as your body of work. So I'm doing that. I'm like coming up with these phrases, I'm doing acronyms. So that's bringing me a lot of joy, like really distilling. And I think now is such a good time to do it. How to get women from not earning what they want to earn to earning life-changing amounts of money, which become world-changing amounts of money.
Oh my goodness. Let me know. I'm getting on that train.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on a money course that I'm hoping to release soon. And that's been a thing for me. Like I was going to be releasing a mastermind in March. And I just was a bit like, I don't know how to pitch that right now. And do you know what? Do I think I could have sold it? Probably, but it wasn't right for me in that moment. So I kind of was like, I'm going to hold back. And I've just been letting it kind of compost and do its thing. And it's exciting.
It is exciting. I think, I think that there's loads of really, really good stuff. I hope that we get to another kind of iteration of how we do work. That thing that you said about, we bring our feelings to work. That's such an antithesis to the 1950s kind of way of working, which is still what a lot of the corporate world is based around. You worked from 9 till 5, and you didn't do any of the kind of domestic stuff because you had a wife who would take care of that, and that's not actually been workable for decades, and yet most workplaces still kind of adhere to that kind of thing. I hope a lot of those kind of structures break down, not just in terms of logistics, but also in terms of the fact that, feelings are being brought to work a lot more.
Yeah. And, sometimes the work you need to do on a day is emotional processing. Yeah. Like the idea that isn't a people go, I've got nothing done today, I've just cried. And it's like, well, hang on. What were you crying about? Like, what were you working through? Why was that coming up? Is that going to release you to do more the next day or week or month? Yeah. So, well, hopefully. So those things are so important, and we've spent so long suppressing feelings because they're not professional. It's just nonsense, and it's created an imbalanced, hurting world. So it's really important to me, even though sometimes it feels like a lot to kind of draw in. and put into like, here's a 6-week e-course on all the nuance in the world about money. But I'm trying.
Yeah, well, if anyone can do it, Ray, it's you. Oh, this has just been delightful. Would you mind just letting people know where they can find out more about you?
Yes, so the best place is my Facebook group, which is the Money and Business Space on Facebook. And then I'm Ray_Dodd on Instagram. I think Ray Dodd is a hunter.
Oh,
like some kind of Republican hunter.
So not that one.
But yeah, Ray_Dodd is me on Instagram, and they're the best places to really like find what I'm doing and all of that sort of stuff.
Wonderful. I will obviously put all of those in the show notes. Thank you so much. This has been ace. I have enjoyed this so much.
It's a joy to do. I love chatting to people on these things. And someone's like, do you want to do a podcast? I'm like, yes. For an hour, yes.
I've been talking to a lot of my clients about encouraging them to like pitch to podcasts. Like, oh, I don't know where to start. Really? Is it now the right time? It's like, people aren't going out. They're doing nothing else but consuming content. Get yourself out there and on them.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Oh, thank you. This has just been delightful.
Thanks for inviting me on.
No worries.